The top stories tonight in Y News. Cybersecurity experts warn that hackers are targeting the key actors in the coronavirus supply chain as distribution gets underway.
The country records its lowest number of new cases in a day for the past 5 months, but data from some labs are not included.
The government now allows limited workshops, training, and other related events in areas under general community quarantine. The Philippines sees deeper than expected economic contraction in 2020.
Government forces now in pursuit operations against terrorists that attacked a police station in Datupiang, Maguindanao.
And village school teacher in India wins $1 million and gives half of the prize money with a runner-up. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Friday, December 4, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news, cybersecurity analysts are sounding the alarm over hackers targeting companies critical to the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, a sign that digital spies are turning their attention to the complex logistical work involved in inoculating the world's population against the novel coronavirus. Marvy Delfin will give us the details live. Yes, Marvy?
Harleen, International Business Machines, or IBM, has urged cold chain companies to remain vigilant and on high alert after the company's task force dedicated to tracking down COVID-19 cybersecurity threats discovered fraudulent emails impersonating a Chinese business executive. IBM believes that hackers have been masquerading the past few months as one of the world's largest cold chain providers, China's Haier Biomedical. In a copy of the spam email, the fake Haier representative sought to purchase about 500 vaccine refrigerators to bolster their temperature-controlled logistical services. The email attachment had a malicious file that, if opened, would prompt the recipient to share their secret login credentials with the attacker. According to the report of IBM cybersecurity researchers Claire Zabiva and Melissa Friedrich, the attack started from emails in September, likely to have targeted organizations in Italy, Germany, South Korea, the Czech Republic, Greater Europe, and Taiwan, which were linked to Gavi, the International Vaccine Alliance. Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, works to supply low and middle-income countries with an affordable coronavirus vaccine. The alliance, which is backed by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, operates a program alongside UNICEF to strengthen immunization supply chains to ensure the drugs are distributed equitably. Gavi did not detail whether the scheme accessed sensitive information regarding the vaccine distribution. It is not yet clear who is behind this campaign, but the IBM researchers suspect a nation state rather than a private individual or group. But the IBM analyst emphasized that a breach within any part of the alliance could result in the exposure of several partner computing environments worldwide. Harleen?
All right, Marvy, thank you for that live report. Meanwhile, as early as now, the government should be preparing the list of recipients who will be prioritized once the COVID-19 vaccine becomes available in the country. In an interview with Get It Straight with Daniel Razon, Senator Amy Marcos said the vulnerable sector, including the senior citizens and immunocompromised and the frontliners, should be the first in the list.
Lahat siguro dapat nakalista. Wag naman yung mga VIP, baka sa Senate lang available yan. Joke lang.
Earlier, the palace said that it already had a list of Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program or 4Ps beneficiaries, the uniformed personnel, and healthcare workers. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque also noted last month that indigents, the vulnerable sector, and frontliners from COVID-19 hotspots will be prioritized. Meanwhile, the senator also wants the funds allocated for the purchase of COVID-19 vaccines to be augmented in the 2021 national budget. In the approved Senate version, 8 billion pesos was placed under the Department of Health, while 75 billion pesos was earmarked for the storage, transportation, and distribution costs for the vaccines under the unprogrammed funds. However, Marcos explained the unprogrammed funds will depend on the government's revenue collection.
May ibang nakalistang project na talagang hindi mabigyan ng right of way o may iba't ibang problema sa kontrata, nag-failure of bidding. Kung parating ganon, taon-taon, sabihin natin 2 years, ganon na nangyari, tanggalin na natin o bawasan ng kaunti yung budget or may magic pang ginagawa sa national budget, yung ilalagay mo sa unprogrammed. Doon mo na lang ilagay, total, hindi naman nagagastos. Tapos, yung talagang sigurado, yun na ang pera na ibigay mo para sa vaccine.
Earlier, Senate Finance Committee Chairman Sonny Angara said all COVID-19 related programs would be the priority of the 2021 national budget, which is eyed to be ratified next week. Marcos hopes the Philippines can team up with its neighboring countries to boost its chances in securing supply of COVID-19 vaccines and setting a global price ceiling for development countries.
President Rodrigo Duterte elevated to the world stage that access to safe and effective vaccine should be made available to all, telling the international community that leaving poor countries out from vaccine distribution would be like a gross injustice. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte renewed his call to the United Nations for universal access to safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines and technologies. During his pre-recorded message for the 31st Special Session of the United Nations General Assembly, the President said that leaving a nation behind in the road to post-pandemic recovery will discredit the values of the UN.
Life-saving services and products must be made accessible to the most vulnerable, the most to the least. If any country is excluded by reason of poverty or strategic unimportance, this gross injustice will haunt the world for a long time.
According to the chief executive, due to the pandemic, the first priority is to strengthen the capacity of the health systems. The president also said the Philippines strongly supports global medical and scientific initiatives forged at the World Health Organization. The country will also do its part in pooling of global resources and helping other countries without preconditions. Aside from this, the president also expressed support for the UN Secretary-General's appeal for global ceasefire but underscored the importance to resolve terrorism amid the pandemic.
Combating terrorism is just as urgent as now, as it was before the pandemic. In my country, this fight is about protecting life, while preserving the democratic values we have restored without violence.
In the end, the Philippine chief executive reiterated the importance of further strengthening the networks of solidarity and cooperation to see the end of the pandemic. The special session aims to highlight the role of the United Nations in keeping the global order during the public health crisis. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Department of Health reported 934 new cases of COVID-19 today, the lowest daily figure since November. The last time that the daily reported cases hit below 1,000 was last November 4, with 987 cases. But the DOH noted that data from 11 COVID-19 laboratories were not added to the tally since they have yet to submit their reports. The new infections pushed the country's total number of cases to 436,345. 6.5% or 28,379 are active cases or those who are still undergoing treatment. The DOH also reported 148 new recoveries, bringing the tally to 399,457. The death count, however, jumped to 8,509 with 63 more fatalities. Quezon City recorded the highest number of new cases with 75, followed by Laguna with 59, and Baguio City, Bulacan, and Davao City with 34 each. Meanwhile, the DOH renewed its appeal to the public to celebrate the holiday season at home and use digital platforms to keep in touch with relatives in order to avoid a possible surge of COVID-19 cases. Secretary Duque stressed that celebrating the holidays during this pandemic is no exception to maintaining our caution.
The government's pandemic task force is easing venue capacity restrictions for workshop, trainings, and other related events in areas under general community quarantine. Meanwhile, establishments in the country are now all required to adopt the Stay Safe application. Rosalie Cos will tell us why live. Rosalie, go ahead.
The Interagency Task Force has agreed to allow the workshops, trainings, seminars, conferences, and other related events in general community quarantine or GCQ areas. These events are allowed to be conducted in restaurants, hotels, and mall atria at 30% venue capacity. The Department of Tourism and the Department of Trade and Industry are directed to release specific guidelines on this. The Department of Health have reminded the public to observe the minimum health protocols, and if possible, DOH calls for virtual meetings.
Kailangan lang po natin laging alalahanin, no? Unang-una, alam natin na nandyan pa rin yung virus. Kahit po na pinapayagan na yung mga ganitong mga activities, kailangan cautious and vigilant pa rin tayo. Pag pumunta tayo sa mga ganyang event, kailangan naka-face mask, naka-face shield, meron tayong distansya sa ating mga katabi, and sana po well-ventilated yung mga areas na pagdadausan itong mga pinapayagan natin.
Meanwhile, the IATF also approves the recommendations to implement the Safety Seal Certification Program in addition to StaySafe.ph. This means all establishments such as government offices, private companies, hotels, and business establishments, as well as public transportations, are required to adopt the Safety Seal. This includes the adoption of Stay Safe applications and generation of its QR code to be displayed in all entrances. StaySafe.ph is the official contact tracing program of the government. Diego?
Thank you, Rosalie Cos, reporting live. In other news, suspected members of the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters attacked a military detachment in the center of Datopiang town in Maguindanao late last night. But the Philippine National Police assured that the situation in the area is now under control. Leah Ilagan explains why.
The police and military continue their hot pursuit operation against suspected Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters terrorists who attacked in town proper of Datupiang shortly before midnight Thursday. West Mincom spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Alaric de los Santos says the group with 40 to 50 members attacked the Charlie Company of 6th Infantry Battalion in Barangay Kanguan.
Habang inaatake po nila ay nag-retaliate po yung ating tropa at sila po ay napatras ng ating tropa.
The armed group is reportedly headed by Sheikh Muhyiddin Animbang alias Kagi Karyalan. The firefight lasted for 15 minutes. The suspects burned a police car before fleeing.
Pang-divert po nila para ma-divide po yung attention ng ating pursuing troops.
Lieutenant Colonel De Los Santos explains the possible reason of the attack was when the Maguindanao provincial government declared the BIFF as persona non grata.
Ang kanilang motibo ng pag-atake ay dahil po sa sila ay idineklarang persona non grata po ng provincial government po ng Maguindanao at ito ay pinasama ng kanilang loob. Kaya may natanggap po kaming report na sila ay aatake.
PNP spokesperson Police Brigadier General Ildebrande Osana also says, aside from the burnt police mobile, they recorded no other casualties from the attack. Osana assured the situation in Datupiang, Maguindanao is now under control. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
The Philippine economy, which before the pandemic was one of Asia's fastest growing, is likely to be far worse off this year than the previous forecast. Rosalie Cos explains why.
Economic officials of the Duterte administration revealed that the economic damage brought by the coronavirus pandemic on the Philippines is more severe than previously thought, forcing the government to forecast a deeper contraction. The government has forecasted a deeper contraction of -8.5 to -9.5% for this year. The previous forecast was 5.5% decline. This following the prolonged implementation of community quarantine in various parts of the country. However, the gross domestic product growth is projected to recover for the next 2 years. The government has projected growth to reach 6.5 to 7.5% in 2021 and 8 to 10% in 2022.
Despite a lower projection than what was initially adopted back in July of 2020, further relaxation of restrictions as we have improved our healthcare system capacity will keep our economy on the right track towards full recovery.
Meanwhile, according to National Economic Development Authority or NEDA, the country is likely to remain under community quarantine until the end of next year. This as coronavirus vaccine becomes available.
Next year, we will enter a more relaxed form of quarantine, which is MGCQ, or more relaxed than that, and the vaccine will begin to be widely available at the start of 2022.
The government sees community quarantine to be totally lifted in 2022. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Department of Health, or DOH, expressed hopes that all local government units in the country will be under modified general community quarantine, or MGCQ, by the second quarter of 2021. Aiko Miguel explains why.
There is no assurance yet when quarantine restrictions will totally be lifted in the country, according to Department of Health spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere. There is still an existing threat of COVID-19, though COVID-19 vaccines are nearly available. This statement comes after Acting NEDA Chief Carl Chua declared life may get back to normal in 2022. But according to the Department of Health, the public should understand that we are not certain what will happen next year.
What I can say would be nothing is certain at this point, no? So hindi po natin alam sa araw-araw na meron tayo ngayon, pinag-aaralan natin maigi kung ano ang mga posibleng mangyari.
According to Undersecretary Vergere, what is important now is the government and local government units' collaboration to prevent the country's health system capacity to be overwhelmed. This can also be done if COVID-19 cases will not spike. When holiday surge of COVID-19 cases will not occur, it is possible that Metro Manila can shift to modified general community quarantine by second quarter of 2021.
The milestones na tinitignan po ng gobyerno, would that be by next year dapat, no? Ang milestone is dapat even by the second quarter of the year, ang hope po ng Philippine government, ang goal natin, lahat ng LGU ay MGCQ na tayo, no? So how do we now attain that? Surveillance, contact tracing, isolation, testing, and all.
According to Mayor Edwin Olivares, chairman of the Metro Manila Council, they are also looking into easing restrictions by 2021 when cases will not surge before the year ends.
Kung magtutuloy-tuloy po, Kuya Daniel, itong ating mga datas na ito at magtutuloy-tuloy po yung ginagawa lahat ng ating minimum health protocol na pag-i-implement sa bawat local government unit at tinitingnan po ng Metro Manila Council ang nire-recommenda na po natin sa IITF na kabuuan ng MMC, yung pong ating MGCQ.
Authorities call on the public that MGCQ will be implemented if everyone will be responsible in observing health protocols this holiday season. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippine Statistics Authority reported the country's inflation rate for the month of November has accelerated to its fastest pace in 20 months. Joan Nano will tell us why.
As parts of the country was devastated by the recent typhoons, this resulted to higher prices of some basic goods as supplies become limited due to massive destruction brought to our infrastructure and agricultural sector. With this, the Philippine Statistics Authority has reported that Philippine inflation rate last November has increased to 3.3%. This is higher than the previous 2.5% in October. According to PSA's data, this was the highest inflation recorded since April 2019, which was a flat 3%. The fastest increase in inflation rate was observed in Metro Manila, followed by Bicol region, while Central Visayas region has the lowest inflation rate. PSA explains that major contributors on the acceleration of the country's inflation rate was the higher prices of food and non-alcoholic beverages, particularly vegetables, meat, and fish. Data shows that inflation rate on food and non-alcoholic beverages has accelerated to 4.3% last month, which is significantly higher compared to 2.1% rate in October. Aside from the impacts of the recent typhoons, PSA has also reported that African swine fever is still a problem, affecting the supply of pork, leading to a higher prices.
Ang datos natin nagpakita nga na ang sources ng pagtaas sa inflation ay talagang nasa food basket natin, ano? So ito ay vegetables, meat, and fish. So these are really influenced by the supply, and you have typhoons in November, so it affected these prices. Ang report ng aming mga field offices ay bumaba ang supply nitong mga commodities. And ito ang rason kung bakit nagkaroon ng pagtaas ng inflation.
Aside from food, alcoholic beverages and tobacco, as well as transportation sector, has also made major contributions on the rise of inflation rate. Meanwhile, several market vendors were complaining over business loss as prices of vegetables and meat were high, limiting consumers' ability to buy.
Mataas pa rin po. Hindi talaga bumababa. Kahit December na, hindi pa rin. Tagal na tumaas. Dati, nakakaubos ako ng dalawa. Ngayon, isa, kalahati. Isang buo na lang, tapos kalahati. Minsan kalahati. Isang araw.
Mataas pa rin po. Hindi pa po bumababa. Medyo matumal pa rin po kasi gawa nga po ng medyo mataas siya kumpara sa dati.
Kasi nga po, hindi kaya ng mga consumer, medyo mataas po eh. Nabibigla po kami, nabibigla din po ang consumer. Kaya sana nga po, mas maganda nga po medyo bumaba ng konti para bumilis-bilis naman din po yung bentahan namin.
On the other hand, the Department of Agriculture assures that they are closely monitoring the prices of vegetables and other basic goods and that they expect prices will normalize gradually in the coming weeks. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The number of registered online businesses in the country skyrocketed to nearly 80,000 as many citizens restrained to stay at home became online entrepreneurs amid the coronavirus pandemic. But there has also been a significant increase in the number of consumer complaints related to online transactions. Ray Palayo will tell us why.
The Department of Trade and Industry recorded around 80,000 online sellers who registered their business this year. Undersecretary Ruth Castelo said this is the result of the government's campaign and possibly due to the increase in public interest on online selling due to the pandemic. But DTI also received a 600% increase of complaint, equivalent to 15,000 this year compared to 2,500 last year. DTI said that consumers should buy on legitimate online sellers.
Hindi lahat ng nakikita natin sa internet ay totoo. Hindi lahat ng mga advertisements dyan totoo at hindi lahat ng sellers legitimate. So we also have to be careful.
Attorney Vic Dimageba of Laban Consumer said, check out the product desired to buy online. To do this, first, read the terms and conditions, check if the seller is legitimate and has a high trust rating. Make a canvas on other online sellers to get the best price and product quality. Make sure that the credit card you will use has a security or anti-fraud feature. Prefer on cash on delivery option to make sure that the product you will receive is the one posted online. Avoid buying luxury items online. Use a password not easy to predict. Check the expiration date of the product.
Don't be an impulsive consumer. Yung pong kailangan lang gamitin po natin yung ating common sense sa pagbili online.
The consumer group also appeals to sellers to be true to their customers, and this will also add to the confidence to buy their product.
Yun po ay magdudulot at magbibigay sa inyo ng trust rating o tiwala, no? Tiwala na voluntary na nanggagaling sa market. Meaning sa mga consumers people, kayo po magkakaroon ng endorsement as testimonial.
Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The camp of Amanda Echeniz, peasant organizer and daughter of slain activist Randall Randy Echeniz, is now planning to file charges against government forces over her alleged illegal arrest. Dante Abento tells us why.
Lawyers of Amanda Echeniz believe that all the evidences allegedly recovered by the authorities in her possession were planted. Thus, they are planning to file cases against the military and PNP CIDG personnel who arrested the activist. Attorney Maria Sol Taule says Amanda is also a victim of red tagging and oppression of the government. The PNP has recently belied the issue of planted evidence.
Can anyone procure a firearms and explosives? Nabibili ba yan sa online shopping stores? I mean, who kept arsenals of firearms and explosives? Diba AFP and PNP lang? Kaya malakas talaga ang laban namin at ang aming paniniwala na itong mga ito ay talagang planted evidence.
Attorney Taule adds, the authorities violated the process of serving the search warrant. The authorities raided the home of Echeniz for several hours before the PNP CIDG served the warrant of arrest.
She was not afforded the opportunity to see paano hinahalugog yung premises ng tinitirhan niyang bahay. 3 o'clock po nangyari to. At 7 or 8 o'clock AM, may araw na sakalang nagpatawag ng barangay. So nakita nyo yung laki ng pagitan ng oras, ilang oras yon, and they have all the opportunity na mag-magic talaga.
Amanda is currently in the custody of the PNP CIDG in Cagayan with her 1-month-old son. The mother and son are expected to be transferred to a detention facility through a commitment order from the court. She had undergone the inquest proceedings for the cases of illegal possession of firearms and explosives. Lawyers from National Union of People's Lawyers, or NUPL, assisted her. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Los Baños Mayor Cesar Perez was shot dead by an unidentified gunman inside the Municipal Hall compound last night. The Philippine National Police is still looking for leads in the killing of the mayor. Macreli Cordova reports why.
The Calabar Zone Police created a special investigation task group to investigate the fatal shooting of Los Baños Mayor Cesar Perez on Thursday night. Perez was shot 2 times in the head inside the Municipal Hall at 8:45 p.m. According to Laguna PNP, the mayor was walking towards his office in the Municipal Hall before 9 in the evening when he was shot by unknown assailants.
Based sa CCTV na nakita natin, after magpamasahe ni Mayor, naglakad siya.
dun sa may open area, and then may narinig na 2 putok, and then yun nakita nila si Mayor na nakahandusay na dun sa pinangyarihan.
The 66-year-old mayor was rushed at Health Serve Medical Hospital but was declared dead at 9:25 p.m. The suspects swiftly escaped the crime scene. Investigators are now reviewing video footages from the security cameras installed at the municipal complex and its nearby establishments. Perez, who also served as Vice Governor of Laguna, was among those named by President Duterte as involved in illegal drugs trade. But Perez vehemently denied the allegation and pointed to local politics as the reason behind his inclusion in Duterte's narco list. For now, police said the motive behind the mayor's slay is still unknown. Mac Cordova, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
The Solidarity Trial on potential coronavirus vaccines, led by the World Health Organization or WHO, may start in January with 2 candidate vaccines to be initially tested for efficacy and safety. Aiko Miguel explains why.
The World Health Organization or WHO is slated to start its so-called Solidarity Trial for coronavirus vaccines this month of December. But the country's vaccine expert panel and the WHO are still in talks for the process of the trial. According to Dr. Nina Gloriani, head of the Vaccine Development Expert Panel of the Department of Science and Technology, there are 5 candidate vaccines being considered by the WHO, but 2 of them are the most promising.
The possible start of the Solidarity vaccine trial here in the Philippines by early or mid-January. Actually, this also allows us more time to prepare very well for the actual implementation.
The DOST refused to name the 2 vaccines until the list of potential vaccines becomes official. According to Dr. Gloriani, the list could possibly be released in the following weeks.
Actually, leading vaccines na to kasi kailangan nasa advanced stage sila to be considered. So, pero hindi ko masasabi kung nag-apply ba sa atin o hindi until that official announcement from WHO. I cannot say that at this point. Until it becomes official, hindi pwede pong sabihin. Pero nasa radar natin. Napag-aralan na rin namin ng BEP. Kaya hindi tayo masyado matatagalan in evaluation.
Meanwhile, the Department of Health assures that vaccination will not be mandatory once a COVID-19 vaccine becomes available in the country.
To get the informed consent from each individual that will be given the vaccine. So pagka meron hong informed consent, meron pong impormasyon na ibibigay sa ating mga kababayan, and all of this information regarding the benefits and the effects of this vaccine will be given to them, as well as what kind of vaccine that will be provided for these specific individuals.
According to the DOH, each individual has the right to choose whether what COVID-19 vaccine he or she will receive. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, here's Elsie Marcos reporting live from Auckland, New Zealand.
Good evening, William. Social media giant Facebook will start removing false claims about COVID-19 vaccines in its latest move to counter a tide of coronavirus-related online misinformation. Ia De Vera details this report live. Go ahead, Ia.
Elsie, to prevent imminent physical harm, Facebook will begin removing false COVID-19 vaccine information. The giant social media company says it will speed up its plans to ban misleading and false information on Instagram and Facebook platforms after the announcement of the first vaccine being approved for use in the United Kingdom. Information that has been debunked by public health experts won't be allowed to be posted, including false claims about vaccine ingredients, safety, effectiveness, and side effects. The company says in a blog post that they will remove false claims that COVID-19 vaccines contains microchips or anything else that isn't on the official vaccine ingredient list. Furthermore, Facebook will also remove conspiracy theories about COVID-19 vaccines that we know today are false, like specific populations are being used without their consent to test the vaccine's safety. Facebook says that since January, they are removing misinformation about coronavirus pandemic, such as false cures and treatments. Also, the company says they will help people stay informed by promoting authoritative sources of information through Facebook's COVID-19 Information Center. Elsie?
All right, Iya, thank you for that report. 3 former U.S. presidents have volunteered to have their COVID-19 vaccinations be publicly televised. Early Briones will tell us why. Live. Early?
Elsie, former U.S. Presidents Barack Obama, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton announced their willingness to be vaccinated against COVID-19 while being filmed on television in a campaign to promote public confidence on the safety and effectiveness of the new vaccine. The 3 former U.S. presidents voiced out their hopes in convincing the public, especially their fellow Americans, in getting vaccinated once the vaccine becomes available. On a Wednesday interview with SiriusXM Radio hosted by Joe Madison, Obama declared his trust on Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Obama stated that if Fauci deems the vaccine safe, then he will no doubt take it himself, even if it means getting vaccinated on public television.
And I promise you that when it's then made for people who are less at risk, I will be taking it, and you know, I may end up taking it on TV or having it filmed just so that people know that I trust this science.
Okay.
And what I don't trust is getting COVID.
On the same notion, Freddie Ford, Bush Chief of Staff, announced on CNN USA that Bush is also willing to get vaccinated on camera once the U.S. Food and Drug Administration grants its approval. Clinton's press secretary Angel Urena also announced on CNN USA that he will also get vaccinated in a public setting as a part of the campaign for all Americans to follow. A major concern for health experts, however, are those hesitant and non-compliant with vaccinations. During his radio interview, Obama helped clarify the milestones that vaccinations have allowed health and science to achieve.
But the fact of the matter is that vaccines are why we don't have polio anymore. And they're the reason why we don't have a whole bunch of kids dying from measles and smallpox and diseases that used to decimate in entire populations and communities.
On December 10, a panel of outside advisors of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is due to have a meeting to discuss the need for an emergency use and approval of the vaccine developed by Pfizer Inc. and BioNTech, which shows a 95% efficacy. Trials will be expected to start days or weeks after its approval, while higher-risk populations such as healthcare workers and residents to be the first recipients. Elsie?
Thank you, Early, live from Australia. Portugal's Health Minister Marta Temido said the country's public health service will be responsible for the distribution of vaccines against the coronavirus, which will be free for all. During an event to present the vaccination strategy, Temido said the country would buy 22 million doses of COVID-19 shots for 200 million euros. The head of the drugs regulator informed Rui Santos Ivo said Portugal had signed agreements to buy the shots with potential manufacturers CureVac, Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, Sanofi, and GSK. This year's Global Teacher Prize was taken home by a teacher from a village school in India for his efforts to promote girls' education. The world's most exceptional teacher generously declared that he will split half of the prize money of $1 million with his top 10 fellow finalists. Maeve Dog will tell us why. Live. Yes, Maeve?
Elsie Ranjitsin Desali, village teacher from Zilla Parashad Primary School in India, was named the most exceptional teacher through the Varkey Foundation ceremony for the Global Teacher Prize. Mr. Desali was praised by the judges for his efforts to improve the education of girls during the pandemic and help them achieve high results rather than miss out on school and face early marriage. Mr. Desali explained that during this hard time, teachers are giving their best to make sure every student has access to their birthright of a good education. The awarding ceremony was held virtually and broadcasted from the Natural History Museum in London, where winners were announced online by Stephen Fry. While this prestigious award came with an impressive prize money of $1 million, Mr. Desali chose to share half of it with the other 9 finalists of the competition, resulting to each finalist receiving $55,000. The other finalists came from Italy, Brazil, Vietnam, Malaysia, Nigeria, South Africa, South Korea, the United States, as well as Jamie Frost from the United Kingdom. This occurrence was its first in the 6 years that the Global Teacher Prize has been running, and according to Sunny Varkey, founder of the Varkey Foundation that set up the competition, Mr. Desali's act of sharing the prize is teaching the world the importance of giving. Aside from teaching at his primary school, Mr. Desali also teaches science lessons to students from 83 different countries online, and he holds an international project which develops connections among the youth who are situated in conflict zones. Elsie?
Maeve, this is a positive news, especially for the exceptional teachers that were nominated. And had their contributions be recognized, how were the top 10 finalists chosen for this award? And is there anything else that spectators can look forward to in the future ceremonies?
Elsie, the top 10 finalists for this year were chosen over 12,000 other nominations from more than 140 countries around the world. During the ceremony, Varkey Foundation also announced the launch of a new prize called Check.org Global Student Prize. This new platform will highlight the efforts of extraordinary students throughout the world, and the applications and nominations for this award will open in the new year. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Maeve Dog, reporting live from Queensland, Australia. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Elsie Marcos, reporting live from Auckland, New Zealand.
And those are the reasons behind the news, December 4, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.